The problem that we're now in is most of this stuff is happening remotely over WebEx and video, and that is a whole different dynamic of the game. We've found that someone needs to be on site, whether it's someone from you, someone from us, someone needs to be at that customer site, booting up WebEx, helping get the plasma set up, making the video camera work, testing the internet connection. I mean, otherwise you just lose people so quickly.
Holding them accountable to watch it.
That's right. Because what's the first thing you guys do when you go into a WebEx?
Minimize.
Look away.
Start pounding away on email until your name is called. They lose you for like 30 seconds. 30 seconds, and it's just, oh, look at the kid, you know? There's something, look at ESPN, let me track my stocks, let me do whatever. And once you're gone, you can't get back. So I'm all about remote management. You've seen that my SEs are spread across the Carolinas. A lot of the times you're going to get them remotely, same with our PSSs. And I believe it can work if we have someone on site to manage that, hold them accountable.
Well, I mean, and again, I think the other aspect of it is...
So I just thought of a great idea.
Even if they can't see you, you need to be able to see them. Because we're losing, you lose way too much of that, I'm losing them, or they're glazing, or, you know, they're interested, or, you know, that somebody just sat up in their chair. I mean, you need that body.
Non-verbal communication is 80% of what we do.
To your point, the last meeting we were with StairTech on, Laura and I were in the room, we brought Wayne in via WebEx, right? One thing that I noticed was they were much more attentive to Wayne when we had the video stream. When it was just straight up audio call or whatnot, they were kind of looking around, and Steve was into it because he's kind of a geek, but the purchasing guy was just, you know, standing there like that. But when we had the video, when we brought it up, put Wayne up on the screen, and Steve was streaming video, they were all into it.
Even though
like, wow, that's HD.
Even though that video can't see them, the perception in the back of your head is that person's watching.
Right.
Yeah.
It brings a face to that person coming out of the telephone, or that voice coming out of the telephone.
Yeah.
So Rick, I was going to wrap up on one other thing on Medic is that, guys, it's not on y'all's shoulders to gather 100% of all that information. It's a conversation that takes place with your additional bus riders. We had a sales manager in territory that if you had something on your 90-day forecast, well, then you do a couple of those things in the Medic line. But if you had something in your 30-day forecast and you were calling it for 30 days, you better have answered more of those questions, like 99% of those questions that fall within the Medic, or the RM would simply look at you and go, how can you forecast this thing to happen in 30 days if you don't understand the following parts of Medic? I think Rick started off the conversation. If you don't have a solution to work in this space, Medic's good. Cisco uses it. If you've already got something that fits you and it works, then use it. But be able to answer more of these questions. And when you sit down to do your 30, 60, 90 with the guys, to be able to say, do we understand who the champion is? Do we understand what their pain points are? What the criteria is? We had a sales rep out of Columbia that was really good on understanding what the criteria and process is. And every time a deal would go south or sideways, it'd go straight back to the notes and say, when we met the last time, you told me that this was your buying process. When did it change? Why did it change? You told me these were the following criteria by which you were going to make a decision. Now you're telling me that you're making it purely on price. Clearly 9 weeks ago, you told me that price was the last thing you were going to consider. Why did this change? And challenge that end user to it. You may never get the deal back, but it makes you a better salesperson because you've practiced with a real live person right there at the end of that deal. That's probably, I think, a critical part of Medic, is gathering the information from multiple folks and being able to answer more of those questions so you can say a deal is qualified and you can call it in a 30-day window. That's probably the biggest thing that you'll gain out of it.
Do you guys have that? Can I erase that?
Yeah.
That down? Okay. So the second part of this that I think is important that we're going to talk about here is, and you guys have asked for that a lot over there, was the technical knowledge and understanding how to practice what's new at Cisco. And this was something specific you guys had requested. For the most part today was going to be all about soft skills and not a lot technical. But because you asked what we're gonna talk about now, what I think is the pitch that we have to be able to give. And that's UC on UCS. Now, quick show of hands, we got a lot of new guys in the room. Who does not know what UC on UCS is? And that's okay. Kind of, sort of. Okay. We have a lot of acronyms in our world, right? So don't be ever afraid to ask what that means. UC,
We all have UC in one way or the other.
yeah, is our Unified Communication Solution, which was formerly known as IPT, IP telephony, which was formerly known as voice over IP, right? So UC is kind of our product suite. UC is important to us because while it only drives about 25% of 25 cents out of every dollar we sell, it has a tremendous drag through. It pulls routing, it pulls switching, it pulls wireless, it pulls security, and most importantly for you guys, it pulls professional services, which is where the high dollars are for you, right? Right. So UC is the one we have to win. It's one of those where if you lose the phone business, up until our invention of UCS, we might not talk to that customer ever again, right? Kind of a closed door. They made the decision to go to somebody else, and that somebody else usually came along with HP and Juniper and Maru and anything else that was not Cisco from an infrastructure standpoint. UCS is our unified computing solution. It is our entry into the server market, the x86 blade server market, and it is now the infrastructure that we provide to allow our customers to put our UC solution on that box. We used to OEM HP or IBM, or we tried to bake it in as an appliance or part of our switch. It is now our custom-made box, specifically for virtualizing those platforms. Okay? So when you look at what we sell, if we bring it down to a really, really, easy point, we sell collaboration, which what goes in here? Telephony, what else?
Voice,
Video, WebEx,
texting,
instant messaging, right? WebEx, messaging, presence, contact center, right? That's right, all those things. We sell data center. What goes in there?
Virtualization.
Nexus, virtualization, UCS, right? Maybe some load balancing, ACS, WAS, WAN acceleration, right? And then they all ride on top of our borderless networks. What goes in there? It's a funny name.
Routing and switching.
Routing, switching, wireless, and security. It's the plumbing that everything's based off of. UC on UCS
core.
hits that intersection of all three architectures. So if we can effectively tell that story and uncover opportunities and be competent in delivering a why Cisco AtNet about here, I believe it's going to pull through everything else that we really want to talk about, right? So UC on UCS. How many feel comfortable whiteboarding UC, IP telephony? Cool. Let's do that. Let's do a couple of those. Let's figure out what people like and what they do well, and let's steal that for these guys on the left side of the table. So Scott, why don't you start? Why don't you do just do a real quick
Just UC in general.
walk us through UC.
What level am I talking about it generically?
You're talking to a IT director and some telephony network admins, and just start with, let's say, corporate, and do one remote site. If you have to go and ask questions about number of switchboards, that's fine. Go ahead and just ask that.
All right. Well, if I'm going too deep, or
No, go ahead.
push me in
Again,
another direction.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Okay.
Don't worry, Carlo, I'll let you know.
Thank you. So anyway, this is how you should start. So the first thing that I think is really important is that everything that's going on in the IP world or in the new world of voice over your network is exactly the same as it was in the old world. There's not been any major recreation of the generic scenario. It's just an all translation. So in the old days, you had one big box, and in the box you had all the things. You had the stuff coming from your phone company, so trunks. You had all your phones themselves were directly connected, so switchboards. And you typically had a voicemail module. So all we've basically done is we've taken this and we've taken the big box out of it, And by doing that, there's a lot of big advantages. So we're basically going into equipment that a lot of times you already have, like a router. This is the switching that you already have or need to buy. And you know, your voicemail, and then of course the whole thing is and really this is PBX itself, so really your phone system. You know, really what we're doing is we're bringing these into servers, call control. So all of these now are IP-based devices, but they're doing exactly what was being done over here. There's again, the big point here is that we're able to do things now and pick pieces and parts and get some redundancy, get some flexibility, get some expandability that this really was very limiting. What happened when you needed to put that one extra card in the box because, gosh, I need 5 more phones. Sorry, box is full, you know. No problem, all we have to do is just sell you a new box. You know, in this case, what we're talking about is, oh, you need to add some more phones? Well, that's fine. We're talking about some licenses, and maybe you need some voicemail licenses. Yeah, maybe you have to buy one more switch. Well, what about the remote site? Well, that's no problem. I'm going to sell you the new remote site. Here it goes. It looks a lot like this one. It's just going to be another big, huge box, and maybe it's a little smaller version of it. Well, but I wanted redundancy. Again, it's no problem. We'll just sell you another big box. And so the big box scenario really created lots of no's for most of the customers. This just went away. I can't afford to buy 2 of these. I mean, that's just not going to work. And the remote site, well, you know what? I can't afford to buy this system here, so I'm going to give up on my collaboration, on my easy internal messages, and you know, or maybe I will afford it because I'm big enough. But you know, this was really difficult. One of the things that Cisco's done, and it really led this market, is Cisco's always been dealing with voice at the routing level and switching level. Maybe at this point it was having to do with moving voice for carriers and so forth, but they've been dealing with the IP level and the packet level for a really long time. So where this separation buys you is, if I have a single site, I can pick and choose where I need to be redundant. I really need my call control up. If voicemail's down, inconvenient. But I'm talking about one other physical server. So I'm talking a fraction of the cost to implement a second one. Or maybe what I do is, I don't even have to do that because Cisco's built in a way for me to be mostly redundant in the equipment that I already have. And by the way, I'm going to be now, so the other aspect of this is I'm reusing equipment that I may already have or already need to have. And the best example of that is, and where this scenario works, is when you go to the remote sites. So again, from a traditional system, and actually most of the competitors, you're still looking at buying a lot of unique equipment for that remote site. Well, in a Cisco scenario, I have my remote site. Well, I'm going to have a router because I have to have some WAN connectivity, and I'm going to have a switch because, gosh, I got to connect my PCs and those types of things. And well, I already knew I needed some telephones. I mean, that was a no-brainer. Well, what other equipment do I need if I have a Cisco site? No, I'm done. All we're talking about is licensing here. I'm going to use that router to handle my WAN connection, but I'm also going to let it be some remote redundancy. I'm also going to let it handle my voice traffic. I'm going to make sure my switches can power my phones. As a matter of fact, if I want to, I can run my PC directly off of my phone, so I don't even have to double up my switchboards. Yeah.
So now we've got to have a whole bunch more people to maintain this. Is that right?
No.
No, I think
Much less.
yeah, and I think that's a really good point. So, you know, the best part about it is in the old scenario, how was I going to get to the phone system to work on it? Well, I was going to call up the local guy, and he was going to have to come over there, or I had to go. I can control all this stuff.
Or you had to have a guy on staff that knew that phone system, and that's all that son of a bitch did.
You know, and absolutely. Now, again, phone systems are still phone systems. If you don't understand phone systems, you're not going to understand this one anymore. But the advantage is that understanding this different technology is going to be able to be used in a lot of other aspects. Let's give a big round of applause.
Yeah.